Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lisa Ramadhani from today 24. Now I want to read dialect text meeting 10. English teacher strategies in managing large class case study. Introduction. English plays very important roles in many fields of human life. It can be used in education and business to get information, job, and entertainment. Research to 2015 also add that English may be required for social survival and employment for new immigrants in English-speaking countries, an essential tool for education and business for some learners. The language of travel and related activities of stinging for other and a popular language for the media entertainment, the internet and other form of electronic communications. It can be concluded that English holds prominent functions in many aspects of human lives. Learning English is essential for today's generation to adapt to global communication, literature, media, and work in the present and future. Therefore, in Indonesians, English is included as a subject in the school curriculum. This is supported by League 20 and 7, which says that English is taught and used as a foreign language in Indonesia. It is the first foreign language learning as a compulsory subject at school. To widen the student understanding of English as a foreign language, thus English is the first foreign language officially taught as a compulsory subject to students from juniors secondary school in Indonesia. In teaching English as a foreign language or EVL, teacher as the facilitators of student learning take a variety of roles written to the classroom. One of the important roles of a teacher in the teaching and learning process is being a classroom manager. As a classroom manager, a teacher should have a set of skill and technique to create a positive and productive learning environment for the student. Teacher cannot successfully teach their student if they are not in control of the class. The control of student by the teacher in the classroom tends to be regarded as the goal of classroom management. In summary, effective English teaching and learning cannot take place in a poorly managed classroom. Class size is not of the influential matters in managing the classroom. Argue that it can impact classroom management significantly. The size of a class may affect the teacher classroom management. It can make and influence the success of failure of classroom management. Class size relates to the number of students in a class. It refers to the actual number of students taught by a teacher. There is not exact size for or small or large class. However, according to Brown, 2001, for effective language learning, a class should have not more than 12 students. A classroom Classroom with too many students often present some problem for the teacher, such a lack of individual teacher-student attention, various opportunities for students to speak, and insufficient teacher feedback on student written work. In addition, large class is usually hot, crowded, and noisy. It affects the teaching process and student academic performance. It also reduces effective classroom control. To overcome the problems of a large class, teacher need to have strategies to improve student learning achievement with opt- optimal classroom management. Several student investigate pedagogical strategies that teachers use in teaching in large classes to create positive student-teacher interactions. Solis and Turner report that self-disclosure, caring leadership, and making the class feel smaller are the strategies to promote positive interactions in large classes. He, he that claims that teachers should move around the class to reduce physical and social distance and help the student in learning. In short, strategy have to be used by teacher to resolve this large class management problem. The problem of large classes are also faced by the English teacher at one of the state's Islamic junior high school or madrasah Sanawiyah in Palembang. This school is also likely to have classes of large size. Based on our preliminary student result, a teacher had to teach 42 to 45 students in each class. It was really an overcrowded class and difficult for the teachers to control. The students were very noisy. Discomfort and lack of individual attentions were the other problem in the class. However, the English teachers had their strategies to manage the classroom and make the student feel comfortable in learning. We conducted this research to know more detail about English teacher strategies in managing a large class and student preparations of the strategies used by their English teacher in managing a large class. In specific, this research was aimed: 1. Exploring English teacher strategies in managing a large classes, and 2. Exploring the student preparations towards the strategies used by their English teacher. Literature review: teaching English as a foreign language. Teaching is wide to convey knowledge to students. Teaching might be defined as a process to help students learn how to do something and understand what knowledge is given. Likewise, the work of teaching includes broad cultural competence and relational sensitivity, communication skill, and the combinations of figure and imagination fundamental to student effective practice. Thus, the student can get knowledge from the teaching process by the teacher. Teaching English is an important job. The objective of teaching English are physically related to the cognitive and psychomotor dominant that the student can understand the English grammar, speak, read, and write English correctly. Teaching English as a foreign language requires teachers to deliver the English language articulately and distinctly to encourage students to improve their English skills through listening, speaking, reading, and writing activities. The role teacher, the role of teacher in managing the class. As the facilitator of student learning, a teacher takes on a variety of roles within the classroom. One of the most important roles of a teacher is being a classroom manager. Richards and Roger, 200, 2000. Explain that the teacher is responsible for determining the content of the what is taught, setting the international patterns of classroom activities, and keeping the student organized and focused on the lesson. This indicated the important roles of a teacher in determining students' success in learning. A teacher with strong classroom management can create an environment for students to learn and behave in new and different ways without distractions. The ability of teacher to educational outcomes, effective learning can begin with the creations of an exciting learning atmosphere. Therefore, classroom management is very important and the teaching learning process. The teacher has to give the student facility to make the teaching learning process easy, active, and more comfortable. Classroom management strategies. Management refers to skill to the organization and presentation of lesson to that our pupils are actively engaged in learning. Classroom control and classroom discipline are the most commonly used concept to refer to classroom management during teaching. Management strategy is why that is applied by the teacher in the classroom with various aspects and goals to get the achievement. In the learning process, according to Eisenman, Edwards, and Tusham 20 and 2050, the management strategy is to direct the student back to lesson to not interrupt our student learning. By these definitions, management strategies focus on the process of learning goals, setting policy, development, and planning to activities objective. It can control the aim of learning itself. Classroom management is what teacher to do ensure that students engage in the task in hand. Moreover, state that classroom management refers to the actions teacher make to create an environment that is respectful, caring, orderly, and productive and support and facilitates academic and social emotional learning. The ability of teachers to organize classroom and manage the behavior of their student is critical to achieving positive educational outcomes. Effective learning can begin with creating an exciting learning atmosphere. Therefore, classroom management is clearly very important and needs serious attention. The teacher should apply appropriate strategies to manage their classroom to that contact and student learning and core. Large classes. The definition of large classes might differ in different contexts. According to UNESCO 2006, in some countries, to 25 until until 13 students per teacher is considered large, while in other countries this it seems normal or even quite small. At the same time, Brown to 2001 emphasizes that for language learning, a class in considered large with it has more than a dozen of students. This implies that the class occupied by more than 12 students can lead to some difficulties in dealing with individuals in the classroom. The teachers often perceive large classes as troublesome, difficult, and problematic as compared to smaller classes. The large classes have more students than available activities can support. Argues that teaching in such large classes is really a burden to teachers. And it's difficult to manage the student in learning, and learners can feel that it is hard to practice participant in classroom activities. It means that in a large class, both teacher and student can face challenges. Describe the challenges encountered by the teacher and student in large English classes. The challenges are the difficulties of teachers in keeping everyone attention, lack of student motivation in learning English, the difficulty of student in hearing the teacher explanation, lack of opportunity of teachers in helping weaker student attendance can be poor and irregular learning of to lack of constitutively time-consuming and take the register teacher and have too much marking to do, and view researchers to make learning interesting. Teacher strategies is teaching English in large class. In teaching large class, teachers should prepare some strategies to deal with various students with different ability and personality and provide them with the opportunity to achieve the learning objectives. Some researchers have conducted studies about English teacher strategies in managing large class Invid guide the teacher pedagogical strategies to create positive student instructor interactions to counter student and instructions challenges. They report that several strategies like self-disclosure, caring leadership, and making the class feel small have positive implications for the student learning performance. In addition, Becker and Withers mentioned that the teacher strategies in managing large classes such as 1. Planning, 2. Classroom management, 3. Organizations, 4. Group and pair work, 5. Teacher type consists of blanching teacher and student talking time, giving clear instructions, reasons for using the student first language in the classroom, using consistent language, questioning teaching techniques. 6. Managing classes with the mixed ability that are dealing with weak, average, and strongest students. 7. Cor- Corrections and marking. 8. Marking and self-evaluating. These strategies are required for successful large class handling. English teacher strategy in managing large class. Based on the result of data analysis, we found that English teachers in managing large class use several strategies, themes, and codes gained from the thematic analysis can be seen in table 1. Planning the lesson. A. Of all teacher prepared lesson plan before teaching. B. Most of them prepared their course books and to add the material in the textbooks. C. They also use other English learning courses such other printed material, videos, and so on. To organize and controlling the student. A. All of the teachers have their own classroom rules. For example, the dic- dictionary use in learning the words, rewards, and punishment for better learning motivation and classroom disciplines practice in learning. These some of them change the student seating arrangement to control learning distraction and maintain student learning engagement. See, some of them move around the classroom to give the individual learning attention or assistance and make them accessible to the student. The most of them attempt to remember the names of students in the class. 3. Managing classroom communication and talking time. A. All of them, all of the teacher use both English and Indonesian language to communicate with their student to avoid understanding. B. All of them delivered the lesson with clear instructions. C. All of them encouraged the student to ask questions about the lesson to ensure their understanding of the material. 4. Giving the written and timely feedback. A. Some of the teacher make and corrected student work to help them improve their work. B. One of them provide example of what requires exhibitions and return the work timely to the student. The terms and code described in Table 1 above were explained as follows based on the data obtained from observations and interview. We found that one of English teachers' strategy in managing large classes was associated with the scheme of teacher work in this case. The teacher prepared lesson plan and course books before teaching to list the structure of a lesson. The data gained from the interview gained from the interview with first English teacher or ET1 said, I prepare everything necessary before teaching. To complete my explanations, I use my course book and other course such as other printed material, videos, and songs to add the material which are not available in the textbook. Yes, I always ask my students to bring and use dictionary to learn the correct spelling, pronunciation, and definition of the unfamiliar words. I will give punishment to the student when they have spelling error if they do not bring dictionary, do not do their homework, or if they do not come to the class on time. The punishment will educate them as well as beneficial to students such as they have to memorize some words or written learnings report. I do that so all of my students could see and listen to my explanations clearly. Moving around the classroom allows me to see and help my students in learning instead of just explaining the lesson from my desk. Teaching in large class can be easier when I remember the name of student. I could call and ask the student easily and quickly without wasting time to look at attendance list. In teaching English, I cannot use full English because the student cannot understand it well. I use English when I words or sentence are simple and familiar to the students. Sometimes I use English first and then I translate them into Indonesian. I explain the material in front of the class to make my student understood the listen easily. I have a target for the student to make them speak in the classroom, so the talking time between teacher and student must be balanced. balance, such as I encourage the students to speak about the lesson which has already been explained from the simple things around them in the classroom. If I spend the whole lesson talking, my student will have less opportunity to learn and practice communications. When I have explained the subject matters, I ask the student if they have some questions. If there are no question from the student, I will ask them some questions related my explanations. Although my class consists of many students, I always check my student. Rock mark the mistakes, give the right answer and their work and return the works timely and ask them to correct their mistake. Conclusion: Teachers in managing large class use several strategies. The strategy were planning the lesson, organizing and controlling the student, managing classroom communication and talking time, giving written and timely feedback on student work. The majority of the student positively perceived toward the strategy used by their English teacher in managing large classes. They found that the strategies were helpful for them in learning English. These professions should be considered a determinant of student attitudes toward English and reflects teacher teaching practice in large classes. Although there is not best way to teach large classes. It might be good to interview teacher strategy in this study to address the difficulty of teaching English in large class settings. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.